Okay, now if you recall in the previous video, we dealt with the situation where we wanted to know what was the probability of a sample of people having an IQ of at least 105, given that the population mean is 100 and the population standard deviation is 16. And again, our sample size in the example I'm going to work with here, the sample size is 9. So we asked the question, what is our interval estimate? Our sample size was 105, so we know 105 is our point estimate, but now we ask and compute what's the interval estimate. So again, just to reinforce, here's our formula. X bar is our point estimate. Z times sigma divided by the square root of n. This product and answer here would be our error term. Okay, and if you take 1.96, our z value, times 16, our standard deviation, and divide it by 4, 4 is just the square root of 16. Okay, if you take these three here, do the multiplication and division, you'll get an answer of about 8. So our interval estimate is going to be 105, our point estimate, plus or minus 8, our error term. Okay, now just look here momentarily and see what we've got. In the middle is our point estimate, and the lower bound and upper bound are equidistant from our sample mean, 105. So 105 minus 8 is 97, if my math is correct. 105 plus 8 is 113, if my math is correct. Alrighty, okay. So calculating the interval estimate should actually be kind of a trivial act for you, but understanding what we mean by a confidence interval, why confidence intervals matters, that's all something that we want to make sure that we get under our belts before we leave Chapter 8. Now, one final thing that I want to reinforce with Chapter 8 is the width of the confidence interval, or to put it another way, the size of the error term is in part a function of how big of a sample we draw. And just to reinforce the point that the bigger sample we draw, the less likely it is to get answers that are discrepant from the population mean. I asked the same question here, but this time I increased the sample size to 64 rather than 9. Okay? So our formula is all exactly the same, 105 minus 100 for our numerator. In our denominator, we've got 16, the square, or the standard deviation, divided by the square root of 64, the square root of our sample size. So we get a p-value of 2.5. So we see here that the probability of getting a sample size of greater than 105 is only 0.01. So if our sample size is 9 compared to 64, the smaller the sample size, we're more likely to get an average IQ of 105. Okay, but also then, not only does our p-value go down if we increase the sample size, the width of our confidence interval gets smaller as well. Again, just working through the arithmetic here, instead of having an error term of 8 when we had a sample size of 9 here, okay, our error term here is 8 when we had a sample size of 9. If we increase the sample size to 64, our error term is half the size. It goes from 8 down to 4. So now our confidence interval ranges from 105 to 101 on the low end, and from 105 to 109 on the high end. Okay. Now I picked this value here for a particular reason that we'll actually come back to in Chapter 8. And notice, if you will, here when we said our lower bound was 97 and our upper bound was 113, contained within our lower and upper bounds is what we claim our population mean of 100. That's in between 97 and 113, okay? But if you go down here and look at a lower bound of 101 and an upper bound of 109, our population mean of 100 is not contained in that interval. That's not really a matter to which you need to concern yourselves right now. But when we go to Chapter 10, we'll actually come back to this exact same example, and we'll see why, when your supposed population mean is not contained in your confidence interval, that from an inferential statistics standpoint, that's an important issue for us to address. Thank you.